to another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz, CEO and founder, and today I welcome Cindy Robinson to the show. Cindy, hello.
Hello, nice to be here.
Well, thanks for joining, and I'm excited to talk to you today. Cindy is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Capri Communities, and you're based in Wisconsin, right?
We're in Wisconsin, yep.
So tell me a little bit about your background and then a little bit about Capri.
Sure. So I've had a long winding road, but my whole entire adult career has been within the senior housing industry. I started back in 1992 and have just really kind of met some really incredible people that saw potential in me and mentored me through. And so I started out at the lowest totem pole as if possible as a receptionist. And then just through mentorships and different opportunities that have risen, I've worked for 3 different senior housing companies, and this last stint right now is at Capri. So I've worked a little bit all over the country. I've worked out on East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. I worked for a very large company, and I decided a few years ago that I really wanted to kind of streamline my life at the same time and go to a smaller organization where I could really feel I could make an even greater impact. And so that's how I came to Capri. So Capri is a local operator here in Wisconsin. At the time when I joined, we've grown since I've joined, but it was a company that was started by a gentleman named Jim Tarantino. So it's a family-owned organization, a company. Jim unfortunately passed away unexpectedly in January. So we're kind of navigating the company a little bit without him, but still going strong. We have a really great, strong leadership. We have a portfolio that has independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And then we also have an affordable arm. So one of the things I really love about Capri is that we have a whole breadth of scope of services from price point as well as product line. So that's, we have got, we're a for-profit organization, but in that respect, I feel like it's almost like a nonprofit feel because we do have the ability to care for people no matter their price point.
Sure. How many communities?
So if you look at the map of how many properties we manage, it's probably closer to 45. But if you just shrunk it down to senior housing portfolio, it's about 30. And of that 30, I have the most influence over about 20 of those properties. The other ones are more the affordable line, where it's still targeting seniors, but not in the private pay sector. So I'm really more involved with kind of the revenue driving force of private pay. So about 20 properties underneath my.
So Cindy, you and I met for the first time this year at our Gentum, this Executive Senior Living Executive Conference. It was great to meet you as long as you've been in the business, which is longer than me. And as long as I feel like I've been in the business, which is not as long as you, it's, we still meet, there's still so many great, wonderful people that we have yet to meet. And you're certainly one of them. And I was pleased to at least have a brief conversation. You said a couple of things and I thought, oh, I got to have her on the podcast. And the first is, well, first of all, how well Capri is doing from an occupancy standpoint. And I really company-wide or portfolio-wide, definitely want to ask you about that. First, though, hot topic, you mentioned that you all do not use what I call paid aggregators. So for, in another word, companies that do a lot of online marketing and we pay a move-in fee. Oftentimes it's about a month, right?
Yeah,
so
at least, yeah.
Place for Moms, very common, a caring.com, things like that. So you don't use aggregators at all. Is that right?
That's correct. When I came into the organization, I joined Capri in 2017. And, I've been in the industry for a long time. And I really felt that league aggregators, they have a place in our industry. But I felt that, they had kind of a little bit of an unfair advantage. And when you're spending that kind of money with paid referrals for those leads, I thought, it's a small company, let's change things up. Let's see if this is going to work, right? So I have the opportunity to do a lot of things that I think a larger size organization might be a little more, a little more cautiously doing. but I felt, let's go for broke. So I went, and at the time we did have a relationship with caring.com and A Place for Mom. And we had good relationships with our regionals at the time. But I came to them and I said, I have a marketing budget, and that marketing budget, I need to know if it's working. I can't see if my marketing dollars are really working in my local markets when I've got leads coming in from these aggregators. And so with the permission of, I went back to leadership and said, hey, this is what I think we should do. And they said, let's do it. And so we broke the contracts with both Caring and with A Place for Mom. And then we really put our marketing dollars to work. And one thing that's really neat about Capri is when Jim was always about relationships, local relationships, really being in the local community and having that local presence. So building the reputation kind of inside out. And my marketing department and I sometimes, marketing reports into me, and sometimes, I have more of a sales brain. So when we talk about the yin and yang of marketing, they're like, well, we got to brand Capri. And I'm like, well, our consumer doesn't really care about Capri. They just want to make sure that their person's being cared for. What they really care about is who's taking care of mom and dad in my location. And so our seniors and their families look at the names of the community. And I'll give you one, like Gables of Germantown. So the way that we brand, we have Gables of Germantown, and then it's a Capri community. So our name comes first and the brand comes below that. And my premise with that is our professional partners, our network professionals that we partner with for those networking relationships, need to understand what Capri does as an organization and what we stand behind, providing that care, providing that environment that the person's going to live in. So when, the discharge planner or somebody's talking about Capri, they can say Capri stands for X, Y, and Z. So then so they can give us those trusted referrals organically. And then the consumer on the prospect side, they're like, oh, I love Gables of Germantown because they're providing X, Y, and Z, but they're seeing that from the leadership team that's providing that service, not Capri, but it's coming from the community itself. So we kind of build these little tiny networks within each of our communities that we have. We're also fortunate not to be cookie cutters. So every one of our communities has a different size, different location, their different makeup. And so, based on what we do is we look at each community that's under our umbrella and we customize the marketing strategy and the sales strategy for that location. In the state of Wisconsin, there's two different licensures, and we really play off the licensure that we have within each of those communities. So some communities can offer a whole breadth of services based on their licensure, and others are a little bit more limited. But even under the limitations of some licensure that we have, we're able to, still have that continuum of care happening within those walls. I think another benefit to our product is that we have primarily independent living. So that we have 60% of our portfolio is about independent living. So when someone moves in with us, they have that natural continuum that they can follow through. So going back to the original question, we took a chance and we said, we don't want to clutter up. Let's just see how our own marketing dollars work for us. And so we really invested in rebranding Capri. 4 years ago, we rebranded with our new color scheme, new kind of naming convention, and we centered everything around enjoy life. So the enjoy life is our company culture. And so we really, really pressed the metal on that. We heavied up on our own website presence and our social media presence. And, we box all the time with the people that can pour millions of dollars into placement and when you're doing a search. But we've been pretty successful with our own organic searching and also with paid search. So, we've had some bumps in the road, but we've really feel like we have a really great strategy when it comes to rebuilding our website, rebuilding our pages, keeping current with paid search. So yeah, we've never looked back. We've never had an issue with drop in occupancy by letting it go of those relationships. In fact, it's freed up our sales team because now they're getting really good qualified leads. And, for years, I've always said, it's not about the quantity of leads, it's about the quality of the lead. So I'd rather have, 12 really great leads versus 48 that I've got to cull through.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And do you have your in community sales teams do outreach, local referral partnership building?
Yeah, it's our what we call our people are community relations managers. And it's rare to find a salesperson that can do both equally
Hmm,
well. You either have a
I
really
agree.
strong salesperson or you've got a really strong marketing person. So we tend to hire more stronger salespeople. And then we build a network behind that person for the outreach. So because some people just aren't comfortable with outreach, but what we do is we really work with those local relationship partners beyond just the discharge planners at skilled nursing and rehab centers and hospitals, because we do such a our portfolio is such heavy with independent living. So the networking there really is related to a broader sense of community engagement. So we do a lot of charitable partnerships. A lot of us are on boards that are local nonprofit boards. And so we sit on chamber boards, we sit on senior networking boards. So we have a lot of kind of involvement that way, kind of meeting people where they're at and those influencers at a broader scope across all different disciplines of industries. So anytime we can see something that's going to be opening, like we do a lot of parades, we do a lot of things at senior centers. Senior centers is, boots on the ground. We're sponsoring bingo, we're calling bingo, we're doing different games, we offer crafting ideas. And a lot of times we don't just do it with a salesperson. We have a life enrichment people also who maybe they have a talent. So they bring that talent to the senior center and become a spokesperson for a Capri community in their own senior center environment. We do
I love
things with
that.
libraries, churches. Anywhere there's a family member or a senior that we know that we can touch in some
Yeah,
positive way, we're doing that.
yeah. Public libraries, I think are an utilized potential resource. We talk about churches quite a bit.
Yeah,
Those libraries is they're a hub. They're a hub and they're certainly utilized I mean, depending obviously on each local community, but I mean, libraries in any community I've ever worked, very active.
for sure. And so, and it's nice because, we don't do hard selling there. We're
Sure,
providing a service, we're providing a friendly face.
sure.
And then people are
Yeah,
like, oh, aren't you that girl that works at, for
right.
Capri?
Yeah,
I have a
yeah,
family member that needs help.
yeah.
So, we do a lot of relationship selling. We don't do a lot of hard selling. And, um, we're not a punitive company, we're a supportive company. So we all have our targets, we all have our budgets. But it's all about getting there. And and we always build a strategy plan. And our COO, Jerry Gordon, she's always like, work the plan, work the plan.
Mhm.
So if a community has an occupancy challenge or something's happening, or we foresee something happening, maybe the age of the person or a rash of deaths, hit us, something like that. We're always thinking, what's the strategy? What's the plan to
Yeah.
overcome the challenge that we're having in that moment? So we try not to be reactive. We always try to be proactive.
Yeah, work the plan. Have a plan though.
Work the
Have a
plan.
plan.
Yeah, that's
Have a plan and work the plan. No doubt. No doubt.
and the funniest thing is, you think you're stressing out and you make this plan and you're all in, and all of a sudden it just works. It's sometimes we do think of crazy ideas and then we're just about to implement that, and by God's grace, all of a sudden occupancy picks up. So it's kind of funny. Whenever we think we need a plan, we put it in action. The plan wasn't really needed. It was just the support the team needed
Doing
at the time.
right, exactly. Yeah, you don't need another idea. Let's typically not, as long as you're working on the fundamentals and keeping the wheel going of all what you know to be true. So it sounds like you, Cindy, really looked at how to retool in a sense, but also appropriately measure and accurately measure your marketing efforts, because using the paid aggregators, the lead aggregators, it's really tough to say, it uses up a lot of your salespeople's time spinning their
Right.
wheels. B, you're not sure, like, okay, what's really working. So your total number of leads reduced, the quality of the leads, meaning your conversion metrics increased and your salespeople are able to spend the time, for the most part, spend the time that they would have spent kind of chasing things down, people down, and really on those face-to-face and voice-to-voice, and the time it takes, right, to work
Right.
with families to help them move forward.
And I think it's difficult for a family too. I mean, it's like going to the doctor's office and talking to 5 different people, and then you finally talk to the doctor and you got to tell your story again. And so, we really want to be the first touch point for the family. We want to have that relationship. One of our successes too is we have very, very low turnover in our upper management and our leadership teams at the communities. So if you called St. Rita Square and talked to Julie 2 years ago, Julie is still there 2 years later. So that consistency of the connection, and with those lead aggregators, as much as they try to build a relationship with that family, I mean, you don't get that same continuity of the conversation of, where else are they touring? Where are they at in the process? There's not a lot of that give and take with a third party lead
Yeah,
aggregator, larger ones. As much as they try to
sure,
repeat that model, it just doesn't exist.
right.
And so we felt really kind of bound by their contracts that's even said, after, the length of lead clauses that they have, that lead is never quite yours. Despite you really working the lead all that time, you're still on the hook to pay this provider, years later. And I really felt that was an unfair advantage that they have. And so I was like, you know what, we just don't want to do it. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. There's been a couple of times where we've had some startups and my operations buddy comes and says, we need more leads. We should, turn these people on. And, I'll resist, and then I'll like, okay, fine. And but the last 2 times we've done that, we've been isolated to one location or two, depending on the situation. And we've only turned them on for maybe a couple of months. And the quality of lead just still isn't there. So then the nice thing about these lead aggregators is you have a 30-day out. So then we pull the trigger and just say,
Right.
it was a good experiment, but it's not gotten any
Sure.
better. So we're just going to go it on our own.
Kind of on an as needed, if needed, startups
Yeah.
kind of
So,
basis. Sure, sure.
I mean, like I said, there's a time and place for them, but most of the time they're providing people who, are even beyond the level of care that we're willing to accept. And, because people are waiting so much longer to make
Right.
that decision. And so those companies tend to get people who are really kind of in a desperate situation. And so I'd rather have a lead that comes in that maybe be a little cool, but we just need to work on them and get them to understand the joys of living in a senior community. And
Yeah.
then they come in naturally on their own and are healthier.
Yeah. And what about local, just real quickly, the local paid, local referral agencies?
Sure.
Typically locally owned, there's a few franchises. Do y'all work with them?
We do. We have some contracts in play right now with them, but much to their chagrin, we tell them when we need them.
Okay. Oh, you
We
do.
really control the conversation.
Okay.
My mantra is if you're at budget, you don't get to use paid referrals. Because there's no need. We're at budget, you're supposed to grow beyond budget. And so what we'll do is each month, we will send out, if a community, I think there's 2 communities right now that we said that, if a good referral comes in, we will use a paid referral. So we partner with Care Patrol and Oasis, and there's a couple other smaller providers here. So we have good relationships with them, but they're very respectful. We have the open conversations all the time with them. And if they do find a lead that they feel is perfect fit for one of my other locations, I'll talk to the executive director and say, what do you think? And we'll make the business decision whether or not we want to accept that lead or not. So it's very purposefully done.
Sounds like it.
And so, yeah, so there's been many times where we've just completely turned them off just because we don't feel like we need their assistance in getting to us.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, we really control the narrative when it comes to that. So we don't let them just send us every single lead. We
Right.
just, we turn them
know
on.
kind of when to say yes, when to say no, and why. It just sounds like you've got a clear outline and expectation, and makes sense. If you're at budget or very high occupancy, why do we need to lean on those resources, right?
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of times, people get in this, well, you need lead aggregators, you need these people help. what they don't realize is, and that, their business model is, well, we're getting you immediate revenue, right? Well, it's only immediate revenue if the person lives with us for a certain amount of time.
Mm,
I'm paying you, I have to pay the salesperson. If they move out within a certain amount of time,
right,
there's all that front end cost. Also, every time I pay out a paid referral, it's taking money away from other expense lines in my budget.
right.
So eventually it does catch up with an operator because you have to make up for that lost revenue somewhere. And it's probably going to be at the expense of a different department. Because we don't have infinite amount of dollars. And so, when they say it's free, it's really, it's free to the prospect, but it's not free to the operator.
Oh, it's definitely not free.
And
Well,
then those costs go down eventually to the
right,
consumer because
right,
we have to make up revenue somewhere else when you're paying
sure,
that money.
exactly. Got it. So speaking of occupancy and doing well and high conversions, you also mentioned, Argentum, that Capri has very high occupancy across its portfolio, which is
Yeah, we have,
fantastic.
right now, I just looked at it before we started, we've been hovering about 94%, consistently. We were very fortunate. We were highly occupied prior to COVID. We were in the mid-90s then. We took a little bit of a dip just because of the natural attrition that happened during COVID. But where some operators really dipped low, we were able to bounce back much faster because our occupancies were so steady. And again,
Okay,
I think it's because of the consumers we care for. We have highly independent living population that's feeding those other levels of care that we offer on those campuses. So we were able to bounce back fairly quickly. Yeah, so now we're sitting at 94 and I think I told you at the conference, my whole goal in life is to keep above NIC averages and we have been, so it's kind of fun to watch.
so can you share in closing, Cindy, some of the things that you do or your teams do, or your differentiators, anything that you care to share
Sure.
as to, how to get there and sustain that high occupancy, not using aggregators, right? Not doing a lot of discounting and concessions.
I think my CEO and I were talking before this call. I think a lot of our success comes the way we've created the company culture, but also we have a matrix organization. So the salespeople do not report into me; they report into the executive director, and then I partner with the operational partners at the kind of the top layer. And so I am very attuned to what's happening at each location, and I do talk to the salespeople, and I support them best I can, but they don't report directly to me. They report directly to their executive director. So that executive director really is the operator and team leader of that entire campus. And so when it comes to strategy, I'm talking to the ED, I'm talking to the salesperson, I'm talking to the RDO, and we work as a team. And I think that a lot of organizations that I've worked for have the salespeople reporting directly to a divisional, let's say, salesperson, or given the size of my community, some people would report directly to me. And I think that kind of does a distraction and disservice because then you're taking out a cohesive unit by not having the whole community working together. So anyway, so I think that's part of our success is the fact that I'm not in their business in every day. I am leading in strategy over the organization. But we give them a lot of autonomy. I think on top of that, so you got that kind of culture down at the community level. I think that we don't, I think I told you before, we don't operate by fear. We operate, here's your goals, here's your budget. If you miss your budget, we look at why are we not hitting goal? And so then again, we talk about the strategy. Every month, we look at a community from a marketing strategy perspective and life enrichment, which reports under me as well. So life enrichment, salespeople, and the marketing folks all get together and we look at occupancy and we look at what's coming up next. We try to do at least one event a month, but we don't overpack the sales team with too much event planning because that just is a distraction. We want them selling. So we try to keep it to about 75% sales, 25% event planning and event engagement. So that could be either anything from a networking event with professionals to a prospect event. We also look at circumstance. I'm not going to bother somebody who's at budget or above budget and try to tell them that they need to make 20 calls a day or that they need 50 new leads. I really want them focused on nurturing their existing lead bank and building that strategic, okay, a unit's coming open, who's next to slide in? So I think where a lot of operators that I used to work for, we kind of looked at everybody the same. We don't do that here. We look at what is their occupancy? Do we need to do lead generation? Do we need to do lead advancement? What is the tactic that is needed? What kind of support does that specific individual need? So it's very customized. And I think given the size of our company, we have that ability to be much more supportive. And then this year, and I was kind of laughing because I don't know if everybody got the memo in the industry. This year for us was back to basics. So this year we did not implement anything new. It's just what exists today and how do we perfect the tools that we already have in our systems? Because the more distractions you give somebody, the less that their ability to really focus on resident care and sales.
Oh, great advice, Cindy. And obviously your results, your team's results, it's always a team effort, speak for themselves. It's great to have you on today. Really appreciate you sharing this very, very hot topic of lead aggregators and also sharing some of your best practices for obvious success because your outcomes are fantastic. And from one Midwest woman to another. I don't live in the Midwest right now, but you're in Wisconsin, right? I'm Michigan.
Yes.
So, appreciate everything that you do and have served the industry. What is 1992? How many years is that? 32 years?
I think so. Yeah, something like that. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Okay. Everything's
Yeah.
30 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
It's been
Um,
crazy.
it is. It's a long time to serve and serve so well and with such integrity. So again, thank you so much for being on. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to you all for listening or watching the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Until next time, I'm Julie Podewitz. See you then.
Thank you.